Welcome everybody to our September City Council meeting. I want to thank all of you for being here. As you can see, based on the agenda and the audience that we have here, we have a lot of items to get through tonight. There's lots of moving parts, and so just be patient with us as we get through everything, and hopefully provide everybody an opportunity to have input onto some of the public hearing pieces. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and if I could ask you to stand for that, and then remain standing because Mr. Page is going to lead us in the blessing of our meeting.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Loving and merciful God, we come before you today with heavy hearts. Our community is deeply shaken by the recent tragedy at Appalachia High School, and we lift you up and all those affected in the heartbreaking tragedy. We pray for the students, the teachers, the staff, and their families who are facing unimaginable grief and fear. Surround them with your peace, your comfort, and your strength in this time of sorrow. Education is paramount, and no one can learn while being fearful or looking over their shoulder constantly. May you grant them peace and calmness as they continue to learn. Lord, we also ask that you be with our local Sugar Hill community and with the family of the 17-year-old who lost his life not 500 yards from here. Lord, wrap your loving arms around those who are struggling with suicide and let them know that you are there, and this life that you have given us is only the great beginning. Lord, we ask that you guide us tonight as leaders and members of this community, grant us wisdom in our decision-making, and may we find unity in our efforts to better our own community. Help us, O Lord, to be instruments of your peace. In the midst of darkness, may we shine light and love each other. In the face of violence, may we be agents of justice and change. And as we gather here tonight, give us the courage to listen and to speak and to act in the ways that honor you and our community. We ask for your presence to be with all of us, and we lift up everyone in this room and be with our first responders as they serve and protect us each and every day. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Great blessing. All right, next order of business is approval of our agenda for the night. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Have a motion from Mr. Hicks. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Page. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Very good. Next is the approval of the minutes for the council meeting and the executive session on August the 12th and the work session for August the 5th. Is there a motion to adopt our meeting minutes?
Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the minutes.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Anderson. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Avery. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Next, we'll move on to awards, presentations, and proclamations. We have some oaths of office tonight for some new members of our youth council, and I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Hicks to do that, but we're going to do it from the front podium there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening. So this time of year is a great time for the Youth Council because, again, this is the time where we go through the selection process for the incoming Youth Council for our upcoming, I'm going to talk about for the upcoming school year. This is probably the best part of my job, me on City Council, being the liaison for the Youth Council. Oh, I see some. I recognize the face there. But again, this is a really great time for me because again, this group of kids, young adults, is the future for our city, is the future for our country, and I'm super proud of the work that they're going to do throughout this school year, the work that they're going to do for our community, and the work that they're going to do to pursue their dreams and whatever that may be. So what we're going to do is we have 4 incoming youth council members. We're going to call them up. I'm going to call them up one by one. You're going to come up. You're going to be recognized. You're going to go through your oath of office with the mayor, and then we'll call up all the incoming youth council members as well, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I'm going to actually speak on the incoming, not the incoming, I'm sorry, the council from the previous year, which was Chloe Moore, who is serving as our mayor this upcoming year. You can say Susan. You can say Susan. Yeah. We have Noah Fox, who is Mayor Pro Tem. We have Marjorie Guerrero. And we have Liron Yayoun. And for our incoming new council members, we're going to call up, and if you don't mind coming up, please, we have Violet Brockman. Congratulations. You can stand right here. We have Angika Shaw. Aiden Popovich. And we have Seth Van Lebergy.
Close enough.
Close enough? All right. Don't you look amazing? All right, so the mayor?
Absolutely. So if y'all could come up here, all 4 of y'all, we're going to swear you in together, okay? And you could repeat after me. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Violet Brockman,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Georgia,
the Constitution of Georgia,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Sugar Hill,
and Charter and ordinances of
and that I will,
that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties
faithfully perform the duties
as a member of the Youth Council
as a member of the Youth Council
of the City of Sugar Hill
of Sugar Hill
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
All right, congratulations, y'all are officially sworn in. We're going to do some sets of pictures here, and it won't take very long. All right, thank you, Mr. Hicks, for being such a good mentor and leader for our youth council. All right, next we're going to move on to our reports, and I'll recognize Mr. Hartley, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to city council, and I will start with Mr. Perkle.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank everyone for being here tonight, coming out, exercising your rights, making sure your opinions are heard. I appreciate you being here. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I cannot express how proud I am of the upcoming Youth Council and, again, what they're going to be doing through the city. But it wouldn't be possible without our amazing advisors that is spending countless hours with them, that of Victoria Richburg and Chase Rehack. So super appreciative of them. A couple things. September 20th will be Gwinnett County's Digital Learning Day. And one of the things that the city offers to its residents is a classroom where families can come and have Digital Learning Day at the E-Center, free Wi-Fi. We offer the gymnasium to the families to be able to get out and just play and have fun. It is a great opportunity for the community to come together. A lot of city staff are there, that being of our marshals, that of our Parks and Rec Department. So it was a great opportunity. This upcoming one, we're starting something we have 4 digital learning days. Well, Gwinnett County has 4 digital learning days this year. And we're actually adding a topic that will be discussed each digital learning day. And this one for the 20th is going to be on financial literacy and investing for kids and for families. So I encourage all of you with kids or without kids to come and attend. The part of the financial literacy will be done from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We will bring in a special guest to actually host that part of the program. So hopefully you guys will be there with your kids for that. In addition to that, that wraps up my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Mr. Anderson, you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a report on the Riverlands Authority that I am the council representative to. The Riverlands Authority is responsible for activating the city-owned property out near the river for parks and recreation opportunities and some limited commercial opportunities. It's really important to allow that unique property and have the public have access to that property for parks and recreational opportunities. In our last month's meeting, we had a presentation from Clark Patterson Lee on our green space, Parks, Recreation, and Green Space Master Plan, in particular on how the community saw that property being activated, which was a really good presentation that they made for us. Coming up this month on Wednesday will be a presentation by Thomas and Hutton, who is doing the master planning for that. They're going to give us an update, so we're looking forward to seeing where they're at in that process. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. Avery.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to thank everybody for being here tonight. I love to see a packed audience at our city council meetings. And with my report, I also want to touch on events of the past month. As many of us know, the past couple of weeks have been tragic and heartbreaking. Our neighbors in Winder suffered the loss of 2 teachers and 2 students at the recent Appalachia High School shooting. Sugar Hill lost a teenager from Lanier High School during an unfortunate incident with law enforcement. In both instances, we wonder why and how could this have been prevented. Sometimes there are no answers, but we can learn life lessons from death and destruction to help us move forward. My thoughts and prayers go out to all the families, friends, and both school, faculty, and community members deeply affected by these events. September is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. What can you do? What can all of us do to reach out to those who are struggling, to those who don't have the strength to admit that life is overwhelming? Somehow, in some way, by acts of kindness, reaching out by listening and offering support, we can make a difference. Therefore, it is even more important to focus on what can bring our community together and not what can divide us. Politics and hot issues have the ability to divide people, but we need to focus on making our community, our city, work for the good for all of us. Sugar Hill is a wonderful place to call home with many caring and concerned residents. As council members, our votes take our city charter, our ordinances, zoning codes, budget allotments, and citizen input into consideration. All the pieces must fit. We are elected to serve our city to the best of our ability and to continue the trust that voters placed on us on Election Day. We research, ask questions, seek legal advice when necessary, listen to the public, and put all those components together, which is not always easy. It will be impossible to please everyone all the time, but we have to put this information together on the scale and see how it balances out, which should create the most informed vote possible. In August, between the City Council and the Planning Commission, we have had rezonings withdrawn, tabled, denied, postponed, or revised. And tonight, there are public hearings for rezonings and design review boards. Tonight, we also have the second of 3 public hearings for the 2024 millage rate. The third and final millage rate public hearing will be September 16th, which will soon be followed by discussions and approval for the 2025 budget, with an adoption in December. We are not the only ones making tough decisions. Parents, educators, first responders, and all who live here can easily look around and see what's wrong, but we can just as easily adjust our thoughts and see what is right. As council members, we investigate all aspects of what we need to see or not see in our community to proceed with facts, figures, data, and citizen input. It is possible to work together for the common good. We can look at all those facts, figures, and documents and move forward to a future we can be proud of within our family at home and our family of this sweet city. I'm proud to call Sugar Hill home, and I'm proud to have the honor and responsibility to serve on the City Council and represent citizens' voices. And again, thank you for being here tonight, and please continue your involvement and care. That ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Mr. Page?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to extend my personal thoughts and prayers to our neighbors and, of course, Winder Barrow, Appalachia High School. While we as a council cannot do anything about school safety, I implore you to reach out to the Gwinnett County Public School System and let them know your thoughts about public safety. Like I said, we as a council cannot. I have very strong views of what we can and cannot do, of course. But if you think of anything of our children, our youth, and our local community, make your point known. Make school safety an important paramount. Make sure that we have school resource officers in every Gwinnett County school, as we do not have that right now. I also want to extend my personal thoughts and prayers to our own community and the loss of the 17-year-old just yards away from where we are tonight. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, please call 988. It's 3 numbers that can save a life. 988. Lastly, I do want to thank you, Troy, for working on a project we've been talking about for past couple months in terms of Georgia Power and the street lights. Georgia Power has finally replaced 421 street light fixtures and converted those all over to LED, and they all match to a nice, consistent, bright color. I appreciate that, Troy. Of course, this has helped provide a consistent look throughout our community and kind of helps with the issues of varying light temperatures as you drive through one street to another, so it should help with visibility. But with that, Mayor, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Page. And I typically do a PowerPoint with a few slides, but I really wanted to focus on the tragedies that have happened over the last several weeks. And at least a couple of the council members have very eloquently talked about it. And as Mr. Page has said, there isn't a whole lot that we can do from a school safety standpoint, but we can do something as a community. And so this morning I had the opportunity to bring together the pastor of Sugar Hill Church, Dr. Christopher Martin, the principal of Lanier High School, and Bryce Bolcher, the principal of Lanier Middle School, as well as some locals like Dr. Bobby Guay that have been involved in counseling in our community for many, many years. And as a team, we're actually going to work together through October and November to do some awareness campaigns with our community and some training for everybody. And I think one of the things that we recognize through these last 2 incidences is that we cannot rely just on our parents to know if their kids are suffering. We can't rely on our schools, our teachers and our counselors. They're going to miss kids, but if we have more eyes on our community and we're all more aware of these challenges, these increasing challenges that we have in not just our community but everywhere, all across the country, that we can prevent as much as we possibly can. And so, just keep your eyes and ears open for that. Sugar Hill Church has been very generous. They're going to put financial resources into this, and they're actually going to hire a counselor to kind of help coordinate all of these efforts. But we want to do something that no other community is doing because we feel like we have something very special here in our community where the churches and the city and all the schools work together to take care of our kids. And so that is all that I wanted to just mention and to say tonight. And I know that each and every one of us up here will be involved in that area because we all have different life experiences and knowledge about this. And so thank y'all very much. All right, next I'm going to recognize Ms. Whittington, the city clerk, for her report.
I have no report this evening, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Whittington. Next, we'll move on to our city manager for his report. Mr. Radford.
Thank you, Mayor, and let me echo my condolences and my heartfelt feelings about the tragedies of the last several weeks. I tell everybody to take a look at our management report that was that you came in, but I want to point you to our downtown page first. Is that where we've in our events page where we've got some. Our live on-stage concert series continues, but I point to our neighbor to the south, the city of Suwanee. This will be the second year of our community food fight. It sounds strange, but it's actually about seeing how much we can donate to the North Gwinnett Co-op in terms of poundage. And cash counts, by the way. If you, our community, North Gwinnett Co-op does a great job. Last year, we outpaced the city of Suwanee in terms of our donations, and we would hope we continue to do that this year as we help the North Gwinnett Co-op with restocking its shelves and helping communities and individuals in need. Our downtown, we've had over 65,400 visitors to our downtown in July alone. We had 12 events and private rentals, and our downtown is showing that it is the hub of community engagement and entertainment. I point you to our new social media accounts for our downtown, trying to make sure that everything clearly communicates our identity, and we continue to get new businesses downtown. And I'd like now to move over and ask Andy McQuigg to come up and give us a brief recreation update, and then Chief Marshall to come up and give us a public safety update, and then we'll turn it over to Troy for Public Works and construction update. So, Andy, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Hope everyone's doing great today. I think the biggest update for coming up in the month is with school back in session, the parks are extremely crowded in the afternoons. Athletics usually start while school is in session so that summer can be used for family trips and other things. So please be safe within our parks with the crowds going on after school. Watch for our children and our best commodities that are out there playing the sports that they love. Downtown's going to start changing here soon. The fall temperatures are already slowly starting to show up, so the splash pad's cooling down. It will end at the end of this month, and as that ends, the tent will be going up for our fall events as well as the ice rink starting in November. And we'll move into a winter wonderland in the downtown area. The East Center is bustling. Tonight we have I-9 basketball leagues. We have men's basketball leagues on Thursday nights, and every night there's a class in the classroom and or the waterfall room and parties on the weekends. So as we move into our fall events, we have several things happening at our parks. Hopefully we have some new things happening at Ridge Lake with the disc golf course. That's going very well. and we open that up towards the end of the month and keep rolling on in our parks. So with that, that is my report, unless you have some questions for me. Thank you.
Mayor, City Council, good evening. The month of August was a pretty busy month for us. We logged 1,735 activities, which included 18 outreach and community policing activities, from splash night, concerts in the bowl, clubs at Lanier Elementary School Cluster, as well as community helpers at Sycamore Elementary. Marshals Parker, Ritter, and Toncoat attended the Law Enforcement Community Engagement Conference in Athens, Georgia. It was a 3-day conference on how we can better engage our community. And we also successfully completed the onboarding of 2 new marshals, Todd Pahokee and Mia Santori. Our youth empowerment program starts up again on September 26th. We are very excited. From what I understand from Marshall Parker, we have 19 children registered for the program. So the word got around from our previous participants. And I do want to thank city council members that participated as well as other city staff. And we hope that you guys can help out again at some point during the year. We are also active participants in all the Lanier Cluster hard lockdown drills that will be happening over the next 2 weeks. Gwinnett County School Police reached out to us and asked us to help them. So we have a great working relationship. And obviously, unfortunately, we may be one of the first ones to respond if that should ever happen. So we need to have a good working knowledge of the layout of all the schools in our area. And our commitment to help keep the children safe, obviously, is a top priority. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. I want to mention a few things that are in the management report to you and highlight a few others that are new to the report. But calling your attention to the Public Works and Utility update in the report, we have added some 300 automated meter reader transmitters to our system, bringing the total number of accounts that we can read automatically to 11,587. That's just about 750 short of our total number of active accounts. So we're pretty close to being able to accomplish the reads in an automated fashion, which helps our efficiency and helps us get to a place where we can bill closer to the actual time when the read occurs. So I wanted to mention that to you, and as I'm talking about the gas department, I do want to mention a couple things about our natural gas system update. We did announce recently that we are making the zero interest loans available through our natural gas partner, the Gas Authority. It makes $7,500 available to current customers for up to 60 months, and these are for gas appliance replacements or gas installation to your home. In addition to that, we also offer appliance rebates, as mentioned here. The information is on our website, so you can take a look at that. As a follow-up to one of the previous conversations we had at the council level, some of our neighbors that offer gas service and electric service, like Lawrenceville, offer a similar program. And then also Atlanta Gas Light. Our rebates are nowhere close to Atlanta Gas Light, but they've got deeper pockets than we do. But I encourage you to take a look at that, and if you've got some aging gas appliances that need to be replaced, take a look at that. And we have more information on our website. One of the other construction updates is the Alton Tucker Boulevard realignment. We are finishing some punch list items, but the project is substantially complete with the stamped asphalt added to the intersection of Alton Tucker and West Broad Street. We also completed some stormwater improvements to Winter Sweet Way. This is one of the drainage issues we were addressing through the years with a crown in the middle of the road and water pooling up against the median, adding a structure there. That was completed a little over a month ago. And then I did want to mention that we have advertised for bids the Highway 20 pedestrian bridge, and that is currently out for bid. We should know more about that towards the end of September, and then be able to bring that to the City Council for action in October. Had a couple of questions about this particular intersection, so I wanted to mention it. Previously, it was stop controlled in every single direction at the two intersections of Lanier first, and then Old Atlanta and Lanier. So both sides were fully stop controlled. The railroad decided that the actual appropriate condition is to not stop traffic on the railroad right-of-way, which is what you see there now. It's a little bit different than what you may be used to. I just wanted to call your attention to that. That was a railroad decision. Also, bigger Georgia DOT projects is the State Route 20 highway widening from Buford Highway to Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. The contractor, E.R. Snell, has gotten started with the installation of erosion control. Encourage you to pay attention to a lot of the temporary traffic controls that will be in place for probably the better part of 18 months. Slow down, pay attention to the construction workers in that area. We are participating in the Greenway Trail construction on the south side of 20, and that will go from the shopping center to the right of the image all the way to Peachtree Industrial. And then we also have some gas relocation work to also participate in. We have a couple of sidewalk projects coming up that are currently in permitting, and that is the Peachtree Industrial Boulevard East Sidewalk, and this will connect the current terminus of the sidewalk on the east side of Peachtree Industrial, just north of the Park Ridge development, up to Pinecrest, and then up to Spring Hill, and then along the second part of that contract will be connecting a short segment on Spring Hill. This is from the new extension of Church Street, and it will connect to the end about where the crossing is across to the school on Spring Hill. That concludes my updates.
Thank you all.
That concludes our report. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Next, we'll move on to the Youth Council report. Ladies, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First off, we'd like to thank the public and the council for being here. We really appreciate you guys giving us your time. My name is Chloe Moore, and I serve as Youth Council Mayor, and to my left is Marjorie.
I serve as the Youth Council Secretary. We are excited to induct our new members. Obviously, did this beginning of the meeting. But we are super excited for this year and all to come. We have a great board this year, and I feel like so much done. We want to say a special thanks to Alvin Hicks, Victoria Richburg, Chase Rehak, Mayor Henry, the council, and the community groups as we meet with them 4 times a year and we talk about what's going on, and looking forward to Sugar Rush. And then we would also like to say condolences go out to the lives lost at the Appalachia High School and life lost at Lanier High School. We're certainly praying, and our condolences go out.
As for recent Youth Council business, we have just completed our grant funding Champion Tree maintenance, as well as more love locks for our love lock structure. We just wanted to let you guys and the public know that we want everybody to come and lock on. You can find locks in City Hall, and we'll be having a lot more thanks to our grant. Thank you.
And ladies, there's been some conversation too, I think, about y'all being involved in some of our mental health conversations, and so I know that would be very welcome and helpful to all of us. All right, so next, we're going to move on to citizens and guest comments, and this is an opportunity for any citizens or guests to comment on something related to Sugar Hill. Each individual has up to 3 minutes. If there's something that you're here for that has a hearing component to it under new business, it would be my recommendation that you wait until that point in time. But we're open to hearing anything that y'all might have to say. Is there anybody here that would like to take advantage of the citizens and guest comments portion of our agenda? Yes, Mr. January.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's James January, 1282 Frontier Drive. You all got my email, I think, that was about the topic mentioned by Mr. Basish about the intersection of First and Railroad Avenue. I find it just amazing that they took away that stop sign. That intersection has worked for God knows how many decades, and I don't think there have been too many serious accidents that are related to the railroad in that time. But now they've taken away that stop sign, and traffic traveling southwest on Railroad Avenue at that stop sign is essentially blind to traffic on First Avenue. You essentially can't see them until they pop right out. So if they're coming there with no stop sign, and they're going to be moving probably in many cases as much as 20 miles an hour, it's simply an accident waiting to happen. So hopefully some of you on the staff or the council can have some influence on the railroad to at least consider some additional signage, warning signs or something on First Avenue at least to help protect us folks who do use that road frequently and don't really want to be wiped out at that intersection. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. January. Is there anybody else who'd like to take advantage of this time? Sanford, is that Sanford raising his hand? Sanford's always welcome to come up and speak. All right, so I don't see anybody else, and so we will move on. We have no consent agenda. We have no old business. We do have a lot of new business. So let's begin with item number 1. That item has actually been withdrawn by the applicant. Do I need to say any more other than just asking for a motion? And I believe that we've been given a sheet with a motion that we can read. All right, is there a motion?
Sure. Mayor, I move to accept the withdrawal without prejudice of the applications for case AX 24002 for annexation, rezoning, and special use permit and associated variances.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Page. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hicks. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Okay, great. Next, we'll move on to item number 2, and this is one that we will be having a hearing on, and I'll ask for the city manager or appropriate staff to come up and give us a presentation on that.
That would be Logan Woodard.
Logan, welcome.
Good evening. Give me just a second to skip through this one. All right, good evening, y'all. This is rezoning 24-002 for 1374 Hillcrest Drive. This is a rezoning from RS100 to RS100 SRD, Senior Residential Development. It's located on Hillcrest Drive, surrounded by existing single-family residential developments. It's an approximately 11.6 acre parcel. Site plans have changed a little bit between Planning Commission and City Council, so there's been a little back and forth. As it stands right now, the project contains 30 single-family detached units and 26 townhome units. That's units per acre of approximately 4.8.
Logan, could you hold for just a minute? Mr. Parker, could you close that door? I'm hearing some conversation from outside and just want to make sure that everybody can hear okay. Thank you for...
Now, the staff is recommending approval of this plan. There are a number of variances associated with this plan. Staff is in agreement with the variance to reduce the detached lot width from 45 to 40 feet. We are also in agreement with the variance for the front project setback to be from 45 to 20 feet. However, staff does not recommend approval of the reduction of the senior residential percentage requirement from 80% to 50% occupancy. And then, as mentioned at the work session, There have been a couple changes to the zoning conditions just to reflect the updated site plan, as well as some discussions with community members as well as the applicant. I believe y'all have already gotten a copy of that. We haven't made any changes. The long and short of it, we're basically enhancing some landscape requirements adjacent to the other residential neighborhoods, which wouldn't normally be required for just a straight R100 development. So we're asking them to enhance for this development a little bit more. We are also suggesting that if warrants are met as determined by a licensed professional traffic operations engineer, that a crossing be installed to cross over Hillcrest, potentially lighted, but we would need to go through a warrant determination for that. And then staff is also recommending for condition 12, that's a new one, sidewalks internal to the development shall vary in width between 5 and 6 feet, as indicated originally on the site plan. This new updated site plan has sidewalks ranging from 4 to 6 feet. The standard for SRD is 6 feet.
Logan, can you advance your slides?
Yeah, sorry about that. That concludes my presentation, if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from City Council? Mr. Perkle?
Yes, he indicated new site plan. Is that the plan that's in our packets? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Anybody else have a question? Yes, Mr. Page?
Just a quick comment, just looking at the staff report. As currently zoned as RS100, estimated average daily traffic count is looking at 35 units, 330 trips is assuming what we're coming out with. As proposed, it's not a significant increase, but 342 cars, average daily traffic count. So, I mean, it looks like just throwing those numbers out there so we all are aware. So I appreciate that being in there. I didn't see that in the e-packet last week.
Yes, that was a late addition as well, just
Okay.
was brought up and for clarity.
Okay, and then as we go to the public hearing, I would like to request if we can put the new site map on the screen, so, because that was not shown.
Sure. Go back here.
Ms. Avery?
Yep.
I also have a question, and I noticed with this plan that the HOA, basically the neighborhood, is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the street. So I would like to know what other neighborhoods in Sugar Hill have the street and stormwater infrastructure handled by the homeowners association? Are there any?
I'm sure there's probably some. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who or where, but I'm sure it's not a unique occurrence.
All right, so there are some, and are there any neighborhood streets that started out as private streets handled by the HOA and then, for whatever reason, got turned over to the city?
Not to my knowledge, but I would not be the best one to ask for that.
Logan has not been here that long, but yes,
I've lived here a number of years, but admittedly, I don't know the private and public street changes, so.
thank you, Ms. Avery. Anybody else have questions before I open up the public hearing? All right, so next we'll open up the public hearing, and we start with 10 minutes for the applicant or those in support, and then we will do 10 minutes for those that might be in opposition to or have some concerns about the proposal. And so, we will begin the first 10 minutes for the proponents of the project. And please, if you don't mind, just give us your name and address for the record and who you're affiliated with.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name's Jeff Murphy, and this is Gabby Shaler, and we're here tonight on behalf of the applicant, who happens to also be the owner and developer of the property. And we have the principals of the applicant are here. If we have any questions later, they'll be available for that. And we really appreciate the time and effort everyone's put into this project. As Logan mentioned, there's been some iterations of the plan as we've gone through the process, trying to, meet the goals of the various groups. As you noted on the original plan, there were about 66, 67 lots. Before the work session last week, we produced a plan that's 56 lots, and I believe that's Yes, that's the one that's there now, a little more open space. So after the work session, the applicant reviewed the issues, had discussions with members of the community and other parties, and realized that the townhomes component of this has just really become an issue for a lot of parties involved. So over the weekend, they worked on that again. And so what we're asking tonight is if you look at the yellow part of that plan, for lack of a better way to describe it, to reconfigure that, we're willing to reconfigure that to remove the townhome components, which would make it all the lots, detached lots. We're not positive what exactly it would look like, but we do know that the street layout would stay similar, which would, avoid the situation where you just come in and you have a single street. So the street layout would be similar. The common area that's shown between the two product types, now we'll just have one product type, would be moved to the front. And you see that one building that's up closer to Hillcrest, that would be removed. And then, so the balance would be filled in with detached lots. We think somewhere between 47, 48, 49, 50, so would be the number there. So what we would ask you to do is basically, we don't think that takes a lot of, first of all, on the conditions that staff produced and in their recommendation of approval. And we feel like those are good conditions. We're agreeable with those 12 conditions. I think you would need to modify condition 1, so rather than being specific to this site plan or the site plan that we had in the original application, you would modify that condition to just say it would be in the detached lots would be in that general size and configuration, and then the balance of the property towards the front would be configured with that product and not the townhomes. And then I would suggest you put a limit of not more than 50 units to, I don't think we could, that's physically possible, but that would protect the integrity of what we're saying. So what we've done over the weekend is we've asked, and also that modification, in other words, eliminating townhouse, obviously that would eliminate the one concern that staff had about the proposed variances, and that being the 80% reduction to 50 on the townhouses as far as the senior housing. So it would be 80%, which is ordinance number across the board. So what we would ask you to do is to amend the conditions, mainly condition 1, like I said, so that the plan would be in somewhat this configuration, but removing the townhouses, not more than 50 units. I know there were a couple of issues in community meetings and various meetings we had, is that the concerns on the impact to the adjoining owners, and we feel like condition 5, especially as enhanced in this recent go-around with the 25-foot buffer, which would obviously still be in place on the street side, that straight part of the street where you could do that, and the 10-foot landscape strip and fencing being maintained by the HOA. And as to traffic, we realize that kind of as a trade-off for not doing the 30, as opposed to doing the 30, 35 units under the current zoning, we're obviously getting some more units, but the trade-off is that there's conditions placed on the property. These 12 conditions, we think those are beneficial to the neighbors and the city. So we hope you view that as a fair and good compromise there. And I know there have been traffic issues have been discussed, but I think these type of units with these type residents are going to have a smaller per unit traffic generation than your conventional family with age-restricted.
If you could hold for just a minute. Guys, if you could keep the conversation down in the audience and not picking on anybody individually, just be aware that people up here are speaking and we're trying to hear. And for a man, it's hard to concentrate on multiple conversations at one time. I'm just going to say that it's true for me at least, but thank you, and please continue.
Well, when you get to be my age, it won't be as much of a concern. You won't hear as well. you won't hear the background as well. But anyway, I think these type units, there are more of them, but I think, so I don't think the delta between 35 units and these 50 units on traffic would be significant there. So again, we believe that's a good compromise, and we appreciate everybody's time and effort. We feel like we've gotten to a good position for all parties. And so we request that you approve that proposal. And again, I know you've spent a lot of time and effort on it, and we really appreciate it. We think it'd be beneficial to the city. Move the townhouses, not less than 50 detached units, and kind of in that general configuration. And we understand if you don't choose to accept that and don't feel like that's the route you could go, then we just request that you deny the zoning and leave the zoning as RS 100, and we'll proceed in that manner. No, we appreciate what the city does, and no ill will. Glad to do that.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions of the applicant with any of the changes that have been brought forward? Or yes, Mr. Perkle.
Do you have a site plan for this new proposal that you?
No, it would be this site plan. The streets would be configured like that in a similar manner, and then the lots that are shown in white would continue out throughout. So you'd have where the green space is between the two types of lots, and down where the townhome lots before the circular street, those would be filled in, and then there would be, in the interior of the circle would be detached lots. And then out on the street, you see that one building that's between the lower side of Circle and Hillcrest, that would be eliminated.
Say that last part again?
If that makes sense, because we got to still get the open space requirement. So the open space that would be taken out in the rear would come up to the street. We still have to engineer that and make sure we meet the open space requirements, but that's the general idea. We'd move those, and which would obviously, we felt that was beneficial to some of the comments we heard as far as streetscape from Hillcrest. There won't be any units, very near it or backing up to Hillcrest, which was, I felt, a positive.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Any other questions, Ms. Avery? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'd like to ask, on the original plan, the proposed purchase price for the homes was between $400,000 and $500,000. Has that changed? Or is there a ballpark figure that might be new?
That has not changed. Okay. I would say it's probably gone up some because of the lower price points were the townhomes. Is that? Yeah. Yeah.
And then with 50 homes instead of 56, I would imagine the HOA dues would have to be a little bit higher with less homes, and given that maintaining the road and the infrastructure, the landscaping.
I don't think it's, it's basically the detention ponds of the street. So, the per unit probably would be some higher, whatever. I think that makes sense to me, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Anything else? Got it? Anybody else with a question? Mr. Hartley, how much time is left on this?
3 minutes and 27 seconds.
All right, so we'll call you back up for rebuttal, or if there's some questions that might need to be further answered. Thank you.
Applicant, I really appreciate your time.
Yep, absolutely. All right, next we'll move on to the next section, the 10 minutes for those that might be opposed. And just want to give everybody some direction. Just please remember that y'all are sharing the 10 minutes. And so just if you work together to come up and make your comments. And we're going to start, and please give your name and address for the record. We appreciate you being here.
My name is Joni Sheridan. I own my home at 5235 Sugarcrest Drive in the Sugarbrook subdivision. I have lived in Sugar Hill for 25 years and in my current home for 20 years. And let me just go off script right here and just quickly say this is twice now that I've come to the game with a game plan, a fair game plan, and the rules get changed in the middle of the game. That's not fair, and I resent it. I'm asking council for a healthy compromise between Sugar Hill citizens and developer of 1374 Hillcrest, Michael Phelps. In my opinion, based upon research including demographics and infrastructure and other concerns, if the tract must be developed, RS 100 is in the best interest of citizens and should still afford the developer a profit on his investment. I am grateful that the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously decided to pass a non-binding denial of the proposal on August the 19th, 2024. I was dismayed to learn on September 3rd, 2024, that a new proposal was presented at the council work session, changing the number of structures from 66 to 56 and now to 50. Nevertheless, I am here to ask the council to deny this latest proposal from Phelps. Currently, we have 2,074 seniors residing in Sugar Hill as of May 2024, and I have that website if you need it. After doing more research, I have changed my mind regarding the need for an RS 100 SRD due to increased senior population projections to the year 2100. I agree we need one. I just do not agree that 1374 Hillcrest is the best place for that zone. Though both site plans state that stormwater and traffic have not been studied, anyone who lives off Hillcrest can tell you that there are many times when it is hard to get onto Georgia 20 due to increased traffic on both streets. This is the only reasonable egress that residents on Sugarcrest have. Many of the new townhomes and apartments along Hillcrest are not occupied yet. I can only imagine the negative impact this will have on the current situation once the new homes are occupied. One of the suggestions from the developer in support of the rezone is that seniors will have less cars. The rezone requires 80% of the homes to have at least one person 55 years of age or older living in them. There is no guarantee that adult children, especially due to current housing costs and interest rates, will not move in with older parents. This is the exact scenario in my home. We have 3 cars among us. There has been no environmental impact study done on the land. My home was built in 1987, well before the current year 2000 codes. My home sits precipitously near a slope. For 37 years, it has not been disturbed by surrounding construction, but I am worried about what will happen to my home and land due to vibrations from falling trees and heavy machinery, even with just 34 structures built. Also, the slope of the tract in question is steeper than Sugarcrest Drive. After purchasing my home, I had to pay a landscaper to come in and recontour my side and backyard to prevent flooding in my home every time it rained. I had to hire another landscaper to develop the hill on the side of my house to stop the erosion. I am really concerned about mudslides and flooding behind my house caused by construction. In closing, I believe trying to rezone 1374 Hillcrest RS 100 SRD is based on greed, not need. This is not an excellent location for a senior community. Where is the grocery store that they're supposed to be able to walk to based on city ordinance? I believe if the council approves this rezone, we will have a neighborhood that behaves like an RS 100, but with twice or nearly twice the structural density. Please vote tonight. Vote with integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's do just a quick time check, if you don't mind, Mr. Hartley. Okay. Please, whoever would like to speak next. And same, just give your name and address for the record, and we appreciate you being here.
Sorry, I'm short. Can you hear me?
We can hear you very well.
My name is Christy Shaw. My husband, Charles Shaw, and I own our home at 5275 Sugarcrest Drive. I do not believe rezoning from a SD 100 to a SRD 100 is necessary for our area. The developer is only trying to put as many structures in a small space as possible. All the seniors that I know like having yards to garden and not living right on top of each other. What is considered to be seniors these days is not necessarily the new norm. The rezoning requires 80% of the homes to have at least one person 55 or older. My husband is 50. I'm only a couple years younger than him. We have a 25-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old who all live at home, and in the next 5 years, we or families like ours could occupy this space according to the rezone regulations that are requesting more structures to potentially house large multi-generational families. This will do nothing but put even more strain on our already overcrowded access road to 20 and to our aging utility system. Sorry. I am very concerned with the retention pond that is being built directly behind my house. all the research that I have done points in the direction that having a retention pond in the vicinity of my property absolutely will lower my property value, which is a huge concern for me. Also, I have 2 small special needs children, one of which has a diagnosis of having a lack of impulse control. Neither of my kids know how to swim, not from lack of trying to train them, but some things are more difficult when you have special needs children. Also, we are not the only ones in my neighborhood. Almost all of my neighbors have small children, so I do not see in the conditions where there's anything in place to protect against potential dangers of this retention pond they are putting back there. If you break down the wording, which I see has since been changed since the copy that I saw that came out last week, if you break down the wording, none of it actually applies to us. Section 5 states a 10-foot buffer shall be provided where single-family attached units border single-family detached units. That applies to none of us. Only the attached units, which they're now saying they're going to be taking out in their plan, are in front of the property, so none of them border our single-family detached units at all. It seems to me like the conditions are put in the file that seem like they are good in reality, but when you break it down and look at it word for word, they are creating loopholes for themselves to do whatever they want. I am still very concerned that an environmental impact studies have yet to be done on the property, and while every inch of our green spaces is being absorbed by concrete and more structures, we are losing all of our wildlife, shaded areas that protect said elderly that they are trying to move in there from heat and environment, and this will cause a rise in utility costs, rise in vehicle crashes with more people we throw into the mix of a poorly planned out road system. And I could go on and on about the potential dangers of being created with the increase of structures and people, but I am seeing very little benefit to our community by this.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Let's do another quick time check if you don't mind, Mr. Hartley. That's what's left? Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Tigger Ford. I live at 5260 Gable Ridge Way. I'm in the back corner of this property. Based off of this picture that I'm looking at right now, my property will have 4 new neighbors within the backyard as well as a retention pond. Now, just to give you an idea of what this property is actually like, this entire property is on top of a hill. It is where majority of our cooling in the surrounding neighborhoods get our cool air from. You can actually feel cool air coming off that hill. Now, since the recent construction across the street from us with all the new apartment homes and everything going up, there has been a noticeable increase in the temperature. Not only an increase in the temperature, but for the first time since living here, since I've been living here in 2018, I could actually smell the Buford landfill. It was so gross that my Rottweiler would not eat his food outside. Okay? Now, with this type of development and putting this amount of asphalt at the one spot that our 3 surrounding neighborhoods are getting all of our cool air from, as well as our fresh air from, taking that away and polluting it and overpopulating it with 50-plus homes, which is, let's say, 2 each, 100 people, 100 more people in a backyard within 11 acres, on top of Hillcrest that, as many of my neighbors have already said, is already backed up, overpopulated. The infrastructure in Sugar Hill is not keeping up with the development in Sugar Hill. And it's only becoming more and more apparent as more and more of these huge facilities are opening for the public. So I just want you to keep in mind, as you continue to sell properties and develop, that this is making an impact and not a good one, not in a positive way. It literally stinks.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Stedman, we have a limited amount of time left. Is there anybody else? How much?
Mayor, if you can, I would like to make a motion, since there are so many residents here. Can I make a motion to extend the time on both sides, both opposition and
Mr. Page, hold on one second. We're still in the public hearing. And so let me have consultation.
Yeah.
All right, just hold for 1 second. So we're going to extend the time for both sides, but we need to give a specific amount of time, and so we're going to extend the comment time 5 minutes for each party, and that should give hopefully everybody plenty of time to make their comments. Again, I just want to encourage you, if someone has said something already, then make new points if you have new points, because I think that is probably what is the most beneficial. So, Mr. Stedman, if you could give your name and address for the record, we know you.
Philip Stedman. I live at 1464 Forest Path Lane in Sugar Hill, and our property adjoins this new property that they're proposing, narrowing it down to safety. This is not the place for a senior living facility. It's in a bad curve on Hillcrest Road. And here, I'm going to read this because I don't want to forget it. Hillcrest is already unsafe to the point that the Gwinnett Police Department spends several days a week writing citations for stop sign running. I have witnessed this, and I have talked to the officers almost weekly. Reckless driving and speeders, sometimes the same people again and again. One officer told me that he wrote one lady 3 days in a row. So they're not paying attention. One police officer told me that they are in fear of the lives of the children at the bus stops along Hillcrest. They are afraid that somebody's going to run off the road and kill them. The entrance to this proposed project is on a blind curve on Hillcrest, just like Gable Ridge. We cannot see to our left, and one day somebody's going to run a stop sign and kill there. There is no view. And it's the same way for the entrance to this property. The sidewalk on Hillcrest is on the opposite side of the street from most of the neighborhoods on that street, which when we moved here 12 years ago was fine. Now you cannot walk across Hillcrest because of the speeders and the stop sign runners. This has to stop. It just absolutely has to stop. It can't be any more. We've had enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stedman. Let's do a quick time check, if you don't mind, Mr. Hartley. 4:26 left. Thank you, ma'am. Please give your,
Sellers?
yes, ma'am.
I reside at 1435 Brookdale Drive. I don't have notes because they don't do me no good. I would like to continue the safety subject. I have an elderly mother that lives with me, and every morning she regularly goes and she does her exercise on Hillcrest, and I'm pretty sure some of you have seen her. She's hearing impaired. She wears hearing aids, but it is what it is. She had just expressed to me today how dangerous it is on Hillcrest Drive nowadays. Literally, just like the other resident mentioned, we are on top of each other. We are humans, dogs, crossing. We don't know who's going where. We're trying to avoid the large dogs. We cannot cross on the other side because there's no sidewalk. Literally, it's so crowded. It's so unsafe. Children are just, they have no room. We're just on the grass, on the sidewalk, on Hillcrest. It is so overpopulated. It's literally, we're on top of each other. And I don't know what it is. I think all the sugar in Sugar Hill, it's on Hillcrest Drive. I just do not understand what it is about Hillcrest.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Sellers, you know that I love you, but we've got a limited amount of time. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to talk. Got it. Thank you for your comments. All right, one more time check, Mr. Hartley. A little over 3 minutes. Is there anybody else that'd like to come up and speak? I think that's fine. Mr. Schultz, you're coming up for a place you don't even live. I don't disagree with you, but we want to make sure that we give time to the residents around that neighborhood.
I thought okay. Are we ready?
Thank you for being courteous, sir.
Yes. Andrew Schultz, 5350 Windswept Tray, Sugar Hill, Georgia. I do have a concern because I do live in Sugar Hill, and I have to travel up and down 20. And this morning, in a 69 Mustang that I restored, I had to drive down Highway 20 at 8 o'clock this morning. And it took me
30 minutes to get out of my subdivision down at the Springs and get down to Peachtree Industrial. That's ridiculous. After Peachtree Industrial, open breeze, no problem. We do have a problem of overcrowding. This place cannot handle anymore. I do realize what it's zoned for, but you can't cram any more in. We can't keep packing this in here like this. It has to stop. The citizens told you in the Envision 101 what they wanted. The citizens showed up at the planning committee meeting, and no one has even brought that up other than one of the other people. What are we doing the planning committee meeting for? Shouldn't it be brought up? Shouldn't it be talked about? Now the plan's changed 3 times. I've sat through all these meetings. We either need to have a plan that we can actually look at and understand and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Let's do a quick time check. Mr. Hartley?
1 minute and 34 seconds.
There you go, man. And Mr. Schultz, this isn't counting against the time. I was not trying to limit your ability to speak. I was just trying to be courteous of the residents that live around, that we had to add some additional time so that they could speak. So thank you, ma'am.
Joni Sheridan again, 5235 Sugarcrest Drive. Mayor, I just wanted to address the comment you made about us all bringing up different points. We are a non-HOA neighborhood. We are not organized. We barely know each other. I've tried to pull this together while healing from surgery. I happen to be out on FMLA is the only reason that this worked. So we did the best we could. The fact that we were redundant on some of the points just means we're very, very concerned about those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, and you did a great job pulling everybody together. All right. Is there anybody else? I think there's maybe just a little bit of time left in this section. Anybody else? All right, we will close the opposition portion. Yes, absolutely. And there is time for rebuttal. We added 5 minutes, which is fair to both sides. And so you're welcome to come up and utilize the rest of your time maybe to answer some questions or address some concerns.
Thank you. This is Michael Phelps. He's one of the principals of the applicant. I just wanted to say, and sometimes you go through these processes, you make revisions in order to try to address concerns and in a positive manner, and I feel like that's what we've done. So I apologize if that's offended anyone. And I feel like the 12 conditions address a lot of the concerns you've heard tonight. And the only thing about the buffer, just to be clear, I think the intent is that when on the site plan that was up there originally, the circular.
And we cannot see the site plan. We can only see you. So maybe just give us just a brief moment to get that up and running.
Does that do it? What do I do? Anyway, I think if you look at that site plan, when the circular street up front, the oval, I know it's not an oval, if you will, I think from there to the rear is where the 25-foot, but there seemed to be some uncertainty as to where that 25-foot buffer and the fence are. It's from that to the rear. And that's really all I have. And I think Mr. Phelps had a couple comments he wanted to make.
Good evening. I'm Michael Phelps. I'm the owner, applicant, developer. A couple things that I wanted to just address while, in front of council tonight. The reason we went this direction was trying to go to the smaller cottage style. These houses are going to be 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 1-car garage product. So they're not going to lend themselves to the detached single family product throughout the whole community. And I know there's a lot of opposition to the SRD with the age restrictives and all that's being said, but we've done multiple age restrictive neighborhoods. We think it's our best foot forward for product there because we do know that it is zoned RS 100, and we could go that route, but we felt like this was a better option to do zoning. And I think a lot of the opposition, no matter whether we go RS 100 or this, the opposition's, all the complaints for opposition is not going to really change no matter what we go with. And I would say that this puts a better foot forward for us working with the neighboring neighborhoods out front and everything else, because we've got bigger buffers than would be required. If we go RS 100, we have smaller buffers, no rental restrictions. So there are there's positives here. I know everybody just looks at nothing but density, but the positives, we have rental restrictions on this community. We've got side buffers, we've got more green space. So it is, better, it's going to be a better, more appealing community than us just doing a shotgun street full of 1,600 square foot, product to try to make up for the price range, basically.
Thank y'all. All right, public hearing is officially at an end. Are there any questions, further questions from City Council before I ask if there's a motion? Mr. Perkle?
I don't have a question, but I have some comments related to what was being said. Related to the ordinance that's there, at the top of the Section 1000 Plan Unit Developments, says the plan unit development is not intended to encourage greater density of development, but rather to encourage ingenuity and resourcefulness in land planning. Then if you skip on down just a little bit to the SRD portion, which is under that Section 1000, it refers to the lot sizes, and it basically says that exterior lots could not be varied. The only reason they can be varied under this plan is because of that buffer. So without the buffer, those lots would have to be the size of they wouldn't have to be the size of the underlying development, but you couldn't have the variance on those. Basically, the whole concept of the PRD was you have some land that may not be usable, challenged for some reason, or you want to set it aside for green space, but then so you can pack other areas tighter, but there has to be, noticeable offsets. In terms of card trips for seniors, I'm 57 and will qualify for this home. We have 4 cars and multiple motorcycles. You're not cutting down trips because of 55. Additionally, we have a new proposal, but we don't have a site plan to go with it to see exactly what's there. We heard a description, but it's not there. So those are just the comments I'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Any other comments before I ask if there's a motion? All right, is there a motion?
I have a motion to deny.
All right, I have a motion to deny from Mr. Perkle. Is there a second? Second. Second from Mr. Page. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor of the denial, please raise your right hand. Okay. All right, we'll move on to item number 3, and there has been a request to table, and I believe that there is a suggested motion in our packet that we have in front of us, and so I'll ask if there is a motion.
Mayor, I'll move to table the review and public hearing of case RZ 24-.
Absolutely, I apologize. We'll wait until it gets a little quieter. Thank you. Somehow I was able to pay attention. All right, we are back on it, so let's get back on item number 3, and I think that Mr. Page was... Oh. Go ahead, Mr. Hicks, finish your motion.
I know we look alike. Again, I move to table the review and public hearing of case RZ 24-004 to the October 14, 2024 City Council meeting and remain the application to the Planning Commission at their September 16, 2024 meeting.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Hicks. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Page. He beat you to it, Mr. Anderson. All right, any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Good deal. All right, so next we're going to move on to item number 4, which is a design review proposal. And Mr. City Manager, Logan.
Logan is going to handle the design review.
Welcome up again.
One moment. All right. Okay. Good evening, y'all. This is design review within the Central Business District 24-001 at 5021 Nelson Brogdon Boulevard. That's at the intersection of 20 and Stanley Street, right where the new traffic signal is.
Let's give it a minute and let it come on. There you go.
The applicant is, one moment. It's currently Zone BG within the Central Business District. The applicant is requesting a design review for a restaurant and retail space of approximately 16,000 square feet. There is interparcel access with the Sugar Hill Church via Oak Street. There are two multi-tenant spaces of about 13,000 square feet, and then one building labeled Building 3, which is not a part of this design review at this time, of about 2,800 square feet. There are seating areas, patios throughout the site plan. The applicant has worked extensively with city staff to kind of finalize some architectural details. Of course, I do have more changes for you. So because these are fairly extensive from the work session, I will go ahead and read them into the record. Mostly, it just has to do with legibility, nothing really super substantial. It's just for wording clarity.
Logan, is there anything that we can look at, or are you just reading it into the record?
I will read it into the record. Pass it to you if you'd like.
Is there a way we can get copies? Yeah, I'm going to need to see something in writing. Sorry, Logan.
Yeah. I do have the, maybe. This is one of the renderings of the property. Basically, what we've asked them to do is enhance the back of house for this development to make it more attractive along the streetscape. That's what the vast majority of these conditions are really trying to hone in on and make sure that they do. All right, so I will, these are, what's on the screen is what I'll be reading into the record, so you can review that, and then I also have a redlined copy as well. All right, so staff recommends approval of the site plan and buildings in material and architectural detail with the following conditions. Condition 1, final building design for buildings 1 and 2 shall substantially resemble the attached exhibits labeled Exhibit 1 through 5. Final material and color selection shall be subject to on-site mock-up approval with identified materials. Condition 2, the proposed drive-through restaurant is not considered at this time a special use permit with this design review board application. That's not right. That must be a typo. So it'll require a separate design review board application. A standalone restaurant or additional multi-tenant space shall be allowed in this vicinity, subject to review and approval by the planning department. Condition 3, connectivity and activation for the rear of the proposed retail buildings at east elevations, which presently is shown along the east side, as the side along Stanley Street shall be provided in the form of public gathering, pedestrian access, and interactive spaces. The architecture along all street frontages shall be designed with front facade, architectural finishes, and improvements exhibiting the same level of design quality and materials as the primary facade, avoiding any unscreened, that's a modification, back of house appearances, including service areas, blank wall area, loading docks, or utility installations visible from the street. This may take the form of entry systems, architectural elements, sidewalks, landscaping, etc., or any combination thereof, as reviewed and approved by the planning department. Condition 4, the approximate 2-acre area to the north of the retail development bounded by Oak Street and Stanley Street to the north of the retail area shall be dedicated to the city. Just a couple more. Condition 5, a substantial gateway art feature shall be incorporated into the site design. The final design and location shall be approved by the city manager prior to releasing permits and installed prior to the certificate of occupancy. developer may elect to make a monetary contribution of $25,000 to the city of Sugar Hill in lieu of installing the improvements. Condition 6, select sidewalks along the project perimeter shall be constructed in accordance with the paver details currently approved for use within the central business district by the city and GDOT. Condition 7, ornamental streetlights approved by the Georgia Department of Transportation for Highway 20 shall be installed along the Highway 20 frontage. And condition 8, no new overhead utility installations, above ground grease traps, or other back of house equipment or storage shall be located between the building and any adjacent street. Such items must be placed in areas that are screened from public view and do not detract from the building's street-facing facades. Dumpster enclosure shall be designed to match the existing building's architecture and finishes. Thank you for bearing with me on that. And that is all for staff's presentation, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Logan. Yes, Mr. Anderson has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. I think on condition 2, what it's intended to say is a special use permit will be required.
If you could go back to condition 2, I apologize. Let's try to.
I think it's supposed to say a special use permit will be required with this design review board application. I think it's just will be required is missing from that, just to indicate.
Just a typo there, but I've got it here.
Yeah. Okay. That's. I just wanted to make that clarification, just to help council get that all those conditions correct.
All right. Any other questions or comments before I open up the public hearing? Mr. Page?
I do have a comment question.
Yes.
Condition number 4, the 2-acre area to the north of the retail development. I just want to confirm, is that developable land or is that just lovely land that we get to inherit and that we cannot develop?
That is an excellent question. Let me.
Okay.
I believe I can answer that question. It is developable. There is some areas that would you would not be able to build on because there is a stream that goes through there, but all that property along Oak Street down to the stream would be.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Thank you, Mr. Radford. Any other questions or comments before we open up the public hearing? Yes, Ms. Avery.
On item 5, I would just like to say that about a substantial gateway art feature, I have had some residents notice some of these art features and say, what in the world is that? And I think this is a very good plan, but I'm not in agreement with condition 5.
Mr. Hicks.
Just as far as the art feature, I know that's been a kind of a requirement that we have for all developments. What is the, I guess I'm trying to understand what would be in agreement with. No, I was the point of view.
Well, one of the ones is the rust-colored houses in front of the apartments at 20 and Hillcrest. And I think that, given the fact that 2 of these acres will be for the city, I realize that from what I've seen in other zoning cases, that this condition 5 has been in several other rezoning cases.
Yeah.
But I just don't particularly agree with that, especially since we're getting the 2 acres.
Mr. Page.
Short and sweet. I think what Meg sum it up, in lieu of the 2 acres, or in lieu of the art display installation, 25,000, we're taking the 2 acres essentially. And I would be okay with that as well, to nix the 25,000, condition number 5, since we are getting the 2 acres. And if it's developable, then that's a win for the city at the end of the day.
All right. Thank you for the comments. Anybody else before we open up public comment? All right, thank you, Logan. All right, we will do the same process that we did for the last hearing, but we will stay with the 10 minutes that we normally do. And so 10 minutes for those that are proponents for the project, and then another 10-minute time period for those that might wish to speak in opposition or express concern. So we will begin the proponents' time at this point in time. And sir, if you could just, whenever you're ready, just give your...
Jim Meyer with Ackerman & Company, bear with me, staff.
Yes, sir.
Stumble through some technology.
Absolutely. We want to be able to see whatever you have, so.
Trying it. No. Yeah, he'll need to.
Will it come up, or? I apologize. We are borrowing a laptop from staff, and there's some interface issues. If all else fails, unplug it and start it again. Right. There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time tonight. Thank you, staff, for helping me stumble through. My name is Jim Meyer. I'm with Ackerman & Company. We are partnering with Novair to develop the property at the corner of Stanley Street and Georgia 20, Nelson Brogdon Boulevard. As you can see on the site plan, we're proposing, and as staff mentioned, we're proposing 3 buildings totaling about 16,000 square feet. What's before you tonight is the 2 buildings at the bottom of the page, the south side of the screen, and 2 buildings totaling about 13,000 square feet. The entire site is 6.5 acres. We're developing 4.707 for retail. We're donating 2 acres for the park, which you can see to answer the question about developability. We're suggesting a racket court development, and so something like that, or whatever the city chooses, but it does show that there is some potential for the property outside of the stream buffer area. We're also dedicating just short of a half acre, 0.46 acres, for right-of-way of the Oak Street, and we'll improve Oak Street from Stanley to the church parking lot. It currently is just about an alley condition, so that will be improved as part of this development. As I mentioned, the total buildings are 16,000 square feet. We're going to also be developing about 1,000 feet, almost 1,200 feet of the greenway along the south and west portion of the property, tying into the development that the assistant city manager was talking about earlier, the crossing at Peachtree, or excuse me, at Nelson Brogdon Boulevard. Going to the building plans. Bear with me while I, which am I? These are shell buildings, 2 buildings that will be built, and we'll look at the architecture here in a minute, but basically the building on the left is 6,000 square feet. Building on the right is about 7,300 square feet, 60 feet deep, standard retail development, 20-foot bays. We will subdivide the buildings as we acquire tenants, and so we'll do the shell. We'll stub for all the utilities, sprinkler system and those, and then let the tenants describe what uses they are looking for the interior. On the screen now are the front, and the parking lot elevation is at the top. The Stanley Street elevation is at the bottom. There's a lot of discussion with staff about making sure that the 2 elevations look similar. I think that you can see with the second elevation, with the exception of the screen wall that we have at the center of the building, the 2 elevations are essentially identical. We do need a screen there, and that will hide some of the tenant operations, also utility meters, gas meters, those types of things. So we've worked to try to add some additional glass and canopies, signage, and architectural features to the Stanley Street side of the building, which is the second 2 elevations, as we have on the parking lot side, which is the top 2 elevations. the side, you see that we have introduced a fair amount of glass. There will be entrances on all four ends to patio space that happens between the buildings. Moving on into our architectural renderings. Let me get these to scale. These are very large files and it may not cooperate, but you can see this is the view looking from the parking lot toward the buildings. It'll be a mix of brick, synthetic wood, and a smooth texture finish. We have the plaza between the two buildings that will be for outdoor dining. We anticipate having several restaurants leasing space, and so we've accommodated that with dining areas at both the ends and the center of the building. Moving on to this is the rear of the building. Let me see if I can get this to reduce. I don't think the computer is going to cooperate because it's such a large file. But anyway, so you can see that again, the rear of the building looks very much like the front. We've introduced glass, canopies, lights, signage, the screen wall to hide the utility meters. We've also included a 6-foot sidewalk across the back that allows folks to travel behind the building, in front of the building, from each of the dining plazas, and also to the stairway that you can see. This is the greenway at the bottom where the cursor is. We have a stairway. We have a walkway that comes into the center plaza area. We also, if I go back to the site plan, we've got 10-foot access to both ends of the front of the building. So we have 3 access points to the greenway for both bike, pedestrian, and scooter access. So that is it for my presentation. Staff's comments, we agree with the comments they proposed. We've asked, with the understanding that the rear of the building, there will be some tenant operations, there will be some utilities, but I think staff understands that with appropriate screening, that we'll be able to accommodate those uses without really them being visible from Stanley or Nelson Brogdon. You also need to realize that the buildings will be anywhere from 6 to 10 feet above Stanley Street, so there'll be an opportunity to provide some screening between the edge of the roadway and the back of the building that will provide sufficient screening. Thank you for the taking out item number 5. We are donating the land for both the park and the right-of-way. We also are working with staff to provide some easements that are necessary for the development of the greenway through the project and some improvements along Georgia 20. So we have been very generous with donations of land and easements to accommodate city projects. And then we've clarified on the pavers. So at this point, I think we respectfully request that you approve DRB CBD 24-001 for the property at 5021 Nelson Brogdon Boulevard. I'm available for questions or council may have. We'll reserve time we have for any.
Yes, sir. Are there any questions of the applicant? Ms. Avery? Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question, and you don't have to say who, but I would like to know, have any businesses committed or expressed interest? Do you have a good...
Not at this time. We wanted to get through this process first so that, you know, we have the renderings, we have the marketing material ready. We just haven't broadcasted to the community until we made sure we had a real project to broadcast. Not that we anticipate, the staff has been great to work with, so we didn't anticipate any problems, but we wanted to just get through this process before we hit the streets. There has been a lot of interest. You know, our brokers have talked to folks offline, and there is substantial interest, but nobody is committed, and we haven't begun formal marketing at this point.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the answer. Any other questions? Mr. Page? Mr. Purple, sorry.
I was curious, what was the thought process with running the buildings perpendicular to 20 instead of parallel and more of a traditional alignment?
it really becomes a grading. The site slopes from the church to Stanley, and it worked out better that we sloped the parking lot rather than tried to stair step the buildings. This orientation allows us to have the buildings on the same level, create that central dining plaza, and kind of create the two buildings as one unit rather than stepping them several feet if we were to parallel Nelson Brogdon.
Okay, thank you. That was, that elevation difference was not obvious from the overhead site plan, but that explains it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Mr. Page?
Thank you. I just have one comment. Looking at the back, I guess the elevation of Stanley, just one, I guess, comment or concern. The screening for the tenant operations, I just don't know, I mean, if we've got potential of 4 restaurant tenants in there, and just knowing restaurant operations in terms of leasing, is that going to, in your opinion, is that substantial amount of screening, or is there an opportunity to add more screening so it's not a issue of taking interior square footage for trash and stuff, and so it can go on the outside being screened? That's just one of my, where my head goes in terms of screening. And
I understand, and very good question. As we better understand our tenant requirements, then we'll better be able to address them. What we're suggesting in the elevation that you see here, and it's kind of blown up, is that we know we're going to need to provide some screening.
Okay.
We're not exactly sure what that means or where that's going to happen, but we certainly are in full agreement that if the tenant has operations, most of these will happen in there, but as you know, with a restaurant, if it gets busy, things pile up, and they're waiting for the break in traffic to run the stuff up to the trash. And the dumpster is located well interior of the property, so there may be some need for some short-term storage, but it's not something that's going to be there for several days. Certainly no dumpsters, loading docks. The grease traps are all on the ground, so none of that will be apparent from Stanley Street.
All right, thank you. Any more questions of the applicant? All right, Mr. Hartley, let's do a quick time check on this portion.
2 minutes and 41 seconds.
Okay. Is there anybody else here that wishes to speak in support of the project? All right, well, we will leave that time just in case there's any additional questions you might need to answer or for rebuttal. All right, we will now move on to the 10 minutes for those that might be in opposition to the proposal or that might have some concern about the proposal. You've got competition, Mr. January. He's behind you, but there's more than Mr. Schultz. How are you?
I'm living the dream today right here in Sugar Hill. Mr. Schultz, Andrew Schultz, 5350 Windswept Trace, Sugar Hill, Georgia. A little background on that. There's 2 homes over there. That red barn that's sitting right there up next to the church, pulled a 65 Mustang out of there. They've been sitting for some 10 years and restored it and made a niece very happy with her uncle's purchase some years ago. But what we don't realize about that property over there, and I'm kind of wondering, since it's already past the zoning and all that, is there any way to salvage any of those large oak trees over there, since we're going to have access to a couple acres? And what you may not be aware of is in front of that house, if you are looking at the house like right now, the right-hand side, that is not a tree there. That is a blueberry bush that is unbelievable in the spring, full of blueberries. So just a couple things, you know, I'm still confused about seeing the backsides of these facing us. It's just awkward to me. I don't know why. I'm having a hard time getting around that. I'm not sure what the council's feeling is on that, but that's a concern I have as well. But all those oak trees are feeding the deer that used to live back there. I don't know if they're still there, but deer were there like 2 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
James January, 1282 Frontier Drive. I'm not opposed to this development. Actually, I think it's a very nice one, and overall, obviously fits the zoning, fits the concept, if you will, of our comprehensive plan and all that. I do have a concern, and that is traffic. Traffic on Stanley Street is already increasing as the apartments get built out. It seems to me there already needs to be a left turn lane from Stanley onto 20 headed toward Peachtree Industrial. The other thing I think is missing here is a deceleration lane from Highway 20 turning onto Stanley Street. I mean, obviously we're going to add a lot more traffic with this, and I think that's fine. That's to be expected. But it just doesn't seem like that intersection, as it is right now, and without some improvements, is really going to be able to properly handle all that traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. January. Anybody else like to utilize this portion of time? All right, I see nobody, so we'll close that out. There is a little bit of time left for rebuttal, if the applicant would like to respond to anything that's been said. And you can pass if you'd like us. Okay, I think they're going to pass on the time. All right, is there any other questions from City Council before I ask if there is a motion? Mr. Page.
Yeah, I just have one comment in regards to the traffic. Troy spoke to that last week, and I think a recent traffic study, it supports it currently. And then looking at future potential road improvements to Stanley and potentially 20 once the other side of Stanley potentially becomes developed. So correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Basesh.
I think at the work session, I did answer a question about improvements at the intersection, lane improvements, and the application of those requirements on the 11.5 acres that are northeast of the intersection. So there's still some area that will redevelop, and when that redevelops, it was part of the traffic study, and we'll apply the requirements to that development.
Thank you, Mr. Page, for the question. Anybody else? All right, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mayor. I make a motion to approve with the conditions, but removing conditions 4 and 5, which are the contribution of land and the contribution of funds to the city. If they choose to contribute those, I think that should be voluntarily and not coerced by the city on condition of the zonings.
All right, I have a motion to approve, but to remove items number 4 and 5 from a condition standpoint.
Mayor, I'll make a second for discussion, but I do have a question then for the applicant.
It's appropriate.
Since the proposal is to remove condition 4, do you feel coerced, or are you in opposition to condition 4?
No, sir. That has been in our plan from the beginning. You know, the site plan. I don't know if this is still on your screen. The site plan has always contemplated the retail. I'll call it south of Oak Street and the parkland north of Oak Street.
Okay. So you guys are, you don't feel pressured to give that 2 acres to the city. You're fine with that? Okay. All right.
I'm looking over my shoulder, and there's head shaking in the right direction.
Okay. All right.
We're not opposed.
I appreciate your clarification on that. With that, Mayor, I withdraw my second. Mayor, I'm not sure how that. Mayor, I'll make a substitute motion.
Or Mayor, if there is no second, then the motion dies for lack of second, and a new motion can be made.
Got it. I was trying to give everybody the opportunity to take a second.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve DRB CBD 24-001, amending condition 2 to add a special use permit will be required with this design review, and removing condition 5.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, I have a second from Ms. Avery. Any discussion before I call for the vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. All right, next we'll move on to item number 5, and this will be our last hearing for the night. Thank you for everybody getting us through what we have gotten through so far. Claire, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Staff received an application for design review within the town center overlay at 1011 Level Creek Road. Perfect. Located along the Greenway up Level Creek Road, surrounded by residential uses. This is the original structure that has since been largely demolished. And then this is the site plan that has been submitted. And the elevations. The elevations, the main color is navy with white accents. There's a front porch as well as 2 back decks. This is the landscape plan with landscaping along the front and a small landscape piece along the Greenway. Additionally, we received this exhibit number 6 as an additional site plan later on. This site plan is most accurate to the proposed structure, as well as what the applicant is looking for in terms of having 2 driveways, one off of Level Creek Road and one off of Cold Creek. Staff is recommending approval of the site plan with the following conditions. So the number 1, that the final design shall substantially resemble the attached exhibits labeled 1 through 6. I believe in your VE packs there was an error. It says 1 through 5, but that should say 1 through 6 to accommodate the most accurate setbacks that are shown in in exhibit number 6. It adheres to the setbacks minus the front setback, but is within the existing encroachment into that setback. So that would be permitted. Number 2, to adhere to our landscaping regulations. Number 3 was added, conversion to a duplex or a 2-family dwelling is prohibited under the current zoning. This is just to reiterate that the proposed structure is required to be a single-family detached home. In order to, in the future, whether it's the current property owner or future property owner, they would have to go through rezoning, which is our general regulations, but this is to reiterate that concern. And then number 4, vehicular access shall be restricted to a single driveway, and that the existing second driveway off of Cold Creek shall be removed. And the applicant can speak more to their intent with the driveways. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Claire. Any questions or? Ms. Avery?
What was, you said there's 2 more conditions, 5 and 6.
Oh, no, 3 and 4 were added since the work session.
Okay.
She was talking about number 1, that final designs language, instead of it being exhibit 1 through 5, which may show up in our packet, it's actually 1 through 6. Got it? All right, anybody else before we open up the public hearing? All right, same process as before. 10 minutes for the proponents, 10 minutes for those that might be opposed or have concerns, and we will start the proponent time of 10 minutes. Is the applicant here and would they like to come up? Yes, sir, please come up. Please give your name and address for the record. And
Kenneth Johansson, currently at 1170 Temple Drive here at the Solis Building, but I just purchased that property that is in question, so I'm going to hook up to this thing because I brought a PowerPoint.
Yes, sir, and if you need any help,
Comes up here. And thank you for staying late. I know it's been a long night, so hopefully this won't be quick and painless, I hope. So this is, let me go to slideshow. But just a quick introduction before we get into the slides. This feels like a job interview. It's really not, but Kenneth Johansson, I moved to Sugar Hill back in December, and I fell in love with Sugar Hill immediately. I've nestled into the community very well. Got to know a lot of the business owners around here, actually born and raised in Sweden. And I got 2 amazing kids at UGA. Currently, one is a senior and one is a junior, which I'll get to in a minute because that's why I bought this property. My dad is a home builder for his entire life, and I've remodeled homes for at least the last 15 years as a hobby. I spent 26 years for Home Depot. I'm currently a director of operations, so I'm very involved in community outreach. In fact, I just got done working with Mr. Michael Parker, who just left, and Home Depot did a large donation to his new training course for the Sugar Hill police officers. So with that being said, as just showing a couple of my prior projects, I'm not just some schmuck coming in here trying to fix a home. I've done this in the past. Just did a big demo and renovation in Marietta, and just finished a beach house down in Navarre, Florida. So if anybody wants the beach rental, there's one available right here. But as we got into the question, so I really wanted to make my point on the second driveway. So I bought this house, and one of the things that interests me with this house is it was a corner property with 2 driveways. One driveway off of Level Creek and one drive off of Cold Creek. I do carry a large 8x10 trailer for my business, and the second driveway would benefit me personally to be able to park that instead of having that ugly trailer in a front driveway that is facing the greenway and where all the traffic goes. So I've been working on the house doing demolition for the last few months, and there's a tremendous amount of walking and biking traffic right in front of this house. So to keep the property clean in the front, to me, it's a big thing. I bought the property originally to make it a duplex, and that was based on just having that second driveway and the availability to make 2 addresses down the line. Now, I'm not here to ask for a duplex today. I know that is a zoning question, and you might see me again in the future. But I've drawn the plans inside to be able to convert it to a duplex if in the future approved. Currently drawn as an in-law suite. This house is meant for my children. It's an investment for them to start their lives after college. I'll be taking one of the units once it's done, and my kids will be taking the in-law suites, or at least my son to begin with. So my ask is to keep the driveway. The driveway's been there since at least before 2012. So Juan, who owned the house before, I got off the phone with him this morning, and he's like, yeah, that driveway was there when I bought the house in 2012. In addition to that, there's no garage on the property. I'm not proposing a garage, so a lot of the storage for the house will be underneath the house. So to be able to access that, the only way to do that would be from that Cold Creek driveway. So that would be my ask, is to reconsider, that the council reconsiders that second driveway, since it's somewhat grandfathered in, it's already there. There was a concern about being gravel. I am not going to keep gravel driveways. That is not what I do. It'll be either concrete or asphalt, most likely concrete. And the house will be beautiful, and it will fit right into your community. And here, just to make another point, in the future, if I come back in front of you with a request for a duplex, this is an aerial view of the property, and you can see 1011 Level Creek there. Both the houses and duplexes across the street are multifamily. There's also a multifamily to the house closer down to downtown. And then the house across the street from me is a LLC that also has several renters. So it is somewhat in the middle of those. Most of those are already zoned as either R72 or R36 zones classification. And I sent an email, and I had a good conversation with Rebecca this morning as well. But I sent them email back before I bought the property, and actually to your planning director at the time was Kaipo. I think he's no longer with the city. But he gave me some promising information that the house is in a zone that could potentially be a duplex in the future, which is why I purchased the house. So, but today I'm asking for approval for a single family so I can get construction going. It's not a pretty site today. I did demos. I've been sitting there for 2 months. I had to wait a month for this hearing, unfortunately, but I'm excited to get started and make things look better for you guys. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant? Mr. Page?
Sure. No, thank you for being here tonight. I know it's a long night already, so I appreciate you being here. I think one of my concerns with the duplex is my understanding of the current zoning and the overlay for town center duplexes are not allowed. So that is a concern, and that's where the second driveway, and I believe I echoed that with a few other council members regarding the second driveway. So I appreciate your thoughts on that and why it is needed. But I think there's other reasons governing why we are not seeking the second driveway, so.
I'm not understand, I mean, I'm going to have kids parking in that, I'm going to have a trailer parking in that. To be able to access, I want them to have a freedom and the privacy to live on their own, even though I'm in the house. So if you remove that opportunity, there's no way of getting to the entrance in the back of the house unless I make a very long walkway all the way around the property. So I guess, and the driveway had been there so long and nobody said anything until now, so I guess I'm a little concerned that it's a concern, that's all.
Sure. I think my only concern is that it is zoned as a single-family residence currently. I would like to see it continue to be zoned as such. So lending a second driveway, approving it now would further, if you come back for a rezoning, kind of almost set a precedence that we've already approved a driveway. So in my opinion, that's how I'm looking at it. So
no, you would still have to
Okay.
approve a duplex. I mean, it's a driveway. It's not a zoning decision that you're making, but.
All right, thank you, Mr. Page. Anybody else have a question? Ms. Avery?
I have driven by the site a couple of times, and I certainly understand about the two driveways. And actually, on Cold Creek Court, I could not consider that a driveway because it's just a bunch of gravel loosely scattered. I would not call that a driveway. But I can see your point. Level Creek Road is a busy road. And if there were just one driveway, perhaps the only driveway should be on Cold Creek and have a really nice front yard on Level Creek Road. I don't know if that's a possibility or not. And I also concur with Mr. Page that it's not going to be a duplex. So I just wanted to toss that out there. I don't know if it's worth redoing the plan and only having, maybe you'd have a little bit more of a driveway area if it was on Cold Creek rather than Level Creek.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be at a bigger expense to me because the curb is not cut in for having a driveway there. So, I'm sorry?
Guys, hold on, we have a process, right? So let's let them respond.
If you're asking me to move my driveway to Cold Creek, it is not prepared. The curb is one of those, I don't know what they call it, Rebecca, but it was like a round-ish curve where he's been using the round curve as a driveway. And the address is Level Creek, so you're proposing me changing the address of the property?
No, because as far as I know, the address is based on where the front door is and where the front of the house is, so the address would still be Level Creek.
Guys, we're not going to have debate here, so let's have a friendly back and forth here. So you've made a suggestion. If you don't agree with the suggestion, then
I'd rather, if the motion is to deny my second driveway, I would rather make a secondary proposal of enlarging the driveway in the front facing Level Creek so that I can make it deeper and park my trailer on the left side of the house in the front. And if you're also saying that you're proposing that in the future there will be no chance within this council to make a duplex, then that's also a little concerning that you're not giving me the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Appreciate your time. We'll likely have some time left over for rebuttal at the end or to answer some questions if there are some. Mr. Hartley, let's do just a quick time check on this portion. 5 minutes. Is there anybody else that is here to speak in support of or is a proponent of the project? Okay, we'll leave that additional time for rebuttal or for question answering at the end. We'll now move on to the portion for individuals that might have concerns or that oppose the proposal. And is there anybody here that would like to come up for that portion of time? All right, see nobody, hear nobody. All right, so we will close that time. Frank, since we really had nobody speaking in opposition, is the 5 minutes still available for?
There's really no rebuttal to be had.
Okay.
If he has anything else to say, you can certainly accept his comment.
Sure. Is there anything that else you'd like to say? Sir, if you could come back up to the podium, we just have an orderly way that we do things here, and it just keeps peace between everybody.
I'm good on that. I would love for you to allow me to have the second driveway. I mean, I do run a business outside of Home Depot and requires additional vehicles and equipment, and it's just going to be tough for my future living to serve off of that one driveway since the house doesn't have a garage. So whether it's a duplex or not, the driveway is important for my living. And again, to continue to support your community, I'm here to support you guys, and that's doesn't help me if I'm very restricted to how I can plan the house, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it, Mayor.
All right, any other questions before I ask if there's a motion? Yes, Mr. Anderson. It's the same thing.
Looking at the aerial photo, that driveway on Cold Creek or gravel pad has been there since at least 1999, going back in aerial photos. So that driveway's been there for 25 some years, and given that it fronts along Level Creek and the Greenway, I happen to agree with the applicant that it makes sense to have that second driveway. I would require it to be paved as part of that condition, but to have that trailer and his other work equipment outside of the view, because it falls down from the Level Creek there. There's a hill there, and it would be well hidden. It would be off the Greenway. He wouldn't have to back a trailer out into Level Creek Road. To me, it makes sense to have that second driveway that's been there for 25 some years. So I don't have a problem with the second driveway. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Perkel?
I'll follow up on that driveway. He mentioned, and we saw in the pictures, it's actually not prepared as a driveway. Someone poured some gravel there. It's a rollover curb that someone has taken advantage of, and code enforcement never saw it. But we're here for the design review. I see a design of a duplex. I hear intent of a duplex. Zoning doesn't allow for a duplex. I see separate driveways for a duplex. I heard separate entrances. I see separate porches for a duplex. I see a duplex.
All right, any other questions or comments before I ask if there's a motion? All right, is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion to deny.
All right, I have a motion to deny from Mr. Perkel. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. Avery. Any discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, like sign. All right, is there a substitute motion?
I would like to make a substitute motion to approve with the change in number 4 to the removal of the driveway and just add Cold Creek on there so that in the packet doesn't look like it specifies just removal of second driveway. So I want to make sure that's in there in the condition.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Page. Is there a second to that motion?
Mayor, just to clarify that the condition is to remove the driveway on Cold Creek. Was that your?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify that.
From what I'm reading, it just says remove the
Gotcha.
driveway. I want to be specific on exactly which one.
Gotcha.
I would like to motion to approve DRB TCO 2420 and amending number 4 with adding the words vehicular access to the site shall be restricted to a single driveway. The existing second driveway on Cold Creek shall be removed and stabilized.
All right, so I have a motion properly made. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Anderson. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. All right, is there a substitute motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the TRC Design Review 24-002 with making an amendment to grant the driveway on Cold Creek Drive.
Deleting condition number
Deleting condition number 4.
Leaving conditions 1 through 3 and deleting condition.
Correct.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Hicks. Is there a second? All right, motion dies for a lack of second. Is there a substitute motion?
Can I make a motion to deny DRB TCO 24002 at this time?
You can make a motion to deny.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to deny. Any further discussion before we call the vote? All right, all those in support of the motion, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Okay. Motion to deny passes. All right. We'll move on to our next item. I misspoke earlier. We do have one more hearing, and that is on our 2024, our proposed millage rate. And I'll just talk about how that process will work. It'll work similar to the way it happened this morning. Our city manager will give the staff recommendation, the tentative millage rate proposal, and then when he is finished, I will recognize city council members for comments and questions, and then we will open up the public hearing. And we're not taking a vote tonight. The vote will be taken next Monday after our third hearing on the millage rate. So, Mr. Radford, please begin.
With your indulgence, I'll read from some prepared remarks. State law requires cities and counties and schools to advertise a tax increase whenever the previous year's millage rate will generate additional property tax revenues to the city than the previous year. We published the state-required notice that the city of Sugar Hill was going to tentatively adopt a 2024 millage rate of 3.69 mils, which is the current millage rate that we adopted in 2023. Without the tentative tax increase of 4.41%, the millage rate would be 3.534 mils. State law requires us to hold 3 public hearings at various times. The first, we did publish this on September 1st, and we published it again on September 8th, the notice of the public hearings. The first hearing was this morning, and tonight is hearing number 2. Third and final hearing will be held on Monday, September 16th at 6 p.m. All the hearings will be here in council chambers. Several factors have shaped the changes to Sugar Hills Digest. Reassessments of existing property by the Gwinnett County Tax Assessor, which was a net increase of some $74.6 million. New additions to the digest, such as new construction or significant renovations, which is a gross revenue of growth increase of $63.4 million. There was also a substantial increase in exemptions from $29.5 million to $84.1 million. This is a net increase of $54.5 million. Most of those increase in exemptions are the increased homestead exemptions passed in 2023. Over years and years, Sugar Hills Digest has traditionally been residential, heavily residential, with mostly single-family homes. At one point, our digest was 92% residential. Our digest continues to become more balanced every year. The 2024 digest is 75% residential and 25% commercial and industrial. Much of the digest diversification and balancing points to the halo effect the East Center has and the downtown campus. A healthy and sustainable tax digest would be around 60%, 40%. This will not happen overnight. I know we've had conversation after conversation about adding more commercial to our digest, more office space to our digest. That will happen over time, and we're moving in that direction. And moving in that direction is homeowner friendly, helping shift the property tax burden to the industrial and commercial tax base. The current millage rate of 3.69 mils was rolled back in 2023. Before that action last year, the millage rate had remained at 3.8 mils for 19 consecutive years. This stability of a millage rate has helped the city navigate a number of disruptions from various uncontrollable events, such as the Great Recession, the global pandemic, and any significant and unbudgeted weather events that damaged city assets. And despite these major disruptions, the city has been able to keep service levels high and consistent. However, we must continue to be prepared for the next inevitable disruption, such as a slowdown in the economy, major storm events, or worse, a prolonged recession. The city has just received a clean bill of health from our independent auditor for the 11th consecutive year that our management team has been in place. Our growth has slowed to a sustainable and management rate. I know we've had a lot of discussion about the growth, but our population growth happened between 1990 and 2010. Those are our highest times of population growth. We have a manageable growth rate now, we think, and we have an attractive and thriving city of 26,000 people because of housing options, an attractive and viable downtown, and vibrant downtown. We have quality parks, recreation, and green space options, including the Greenway. We have high-performing public schools, and we have a commitment to the arts of all types and genres. The city's 120 full-time and part-time employees come to work every day to make Sugar Hill a better place to live, work, and play. They manage, maintain, and nurture the assets entrusted to them with integrity and professionalism. Because of our continued growth and attractiveness as a city to live, work, and play, service demands will continue to grow. As staff, we are committed to keeping service levels high with the quality the community has come to expect and deliver those services with excellent customer service. Keeping the millage rate at 3.69 mils will result in a small increase in city property taxes. For example, a homestead property in the city with an average fair market value of $450,000 would result in an increase of $28.08 per year. A non-homestead property with a value of $425,000 would result in an increase of $26.52 per year. These amounts will be less after the city's standard homestead exemption of $10,000 is applied, or $20,000 for the increased senior homestead exemption. The increase in revenue will be offset by several factors, including expected increase in the consumer price index, and lastly, any increase in compensation for city employees approved in the 2025 budget to be adopted later this year would also offset the revenue increase. One last point, city property taxes are about one input into property owners' overall tax bill. For a $450,000 homestead property, the total tax bill is $6,683. School taxes make up $3,617 of that. County taxes are $2,439, and a Sugar Hill tax bill would be $627. So with this as background, along with the tax relief provided through the 2023 millage rate rollback and the significant and almost historic homestead exemption increase that went into effect this last year, staff is recommending the 2024 millage rate remain at 3.69 mils. With that, Mr. Mayor, I conclude my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Radford. Any questions or comments from City Council before I open up? Yes, Mr. Perkle.
I'll echo my comments from this morning's public hearing, looking at the 5-year history of the levy. There's been an increase of 63.99% over that period of time, but more disturbingly, over the last 2 years, it was an increase in 40%. In 2022, it was 28%, and 12% increase in 2023. I think the city manager does fairly point out how high property tax bills are across the board. Certainly ours are not all of them, But anything we can do to help alleviate some of that burden on the taxpayers, I think we need to do, particularly after the previous increases. So I think it should be a lower rate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Mr. Page?
Sure. I guess to also follow up on my remarks this morning, I had asked the question regarding cost of living increases. I believe we have not settled exactly on what that number is, but looking at a potential 3 to 4 across the board for all staff, and we're around a number of 120 staff members currently. Whether we vote to approve a 3.69 mil, or if we vote to approve a lower millage rate, I do want to say that I have full support of whatever raise we can give to our staff. I think it's key in terms of retention. It's key in terms that we stay competitive with our sister cities, Suwannee and Beaufort to be exact. So, even if we lower it, I think it's key to know and to let our staff know that that 3 to 4% increase in my eyes will be prioritized across the board. So.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Ms. Avery, I'm sorry I didn't see your green light. Would you have some comments?
I'll go ahead and say a few things. I agree with Mr. Page, and I know our employees certainly deserve to be commended. They do a great job. I've always been very pleased with our employees. I think there are ways to lower the millage rate a bit. I was studying the August revenue and expense report summary for the city and looking at what has been spent so far year to date versus what has been budgeted. And there are some departments that still have a lot of money left that they have available to spend for this year. So I can see where there could be some trimming in the budget. And I know that setting the millage rate helps us decide what's going to happen with the budget. So I can see where there could be a little bit of trimming for the upcoming budget and therefore have the possibility of lowering the millage rate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Radford, that growth over the last 5 years in the tax digest, do you know what percentage of that growth is from new construction versus reassessments? Can you give a breakdown of that, even if it's rough numbers?
Thank you, Ms. Pugh.
From the 2019 through 2023, the percentage growth for reassessed values was over 62%, was based on reassessments of values, and new construction, the growth was 38% for that time period.
Thank you,
And I
Ms.
do
Pugh.
want to make a correction. I told you 120 this morning. It's closer to 130, 135 plus mayor and council. So I double checked.
Thank you, Ms. Pugh.
Other questions?
That was all. I appreciate that. So basically, somewhere around 40% of the increased revenue over the last 4 or 5 years is from new construction versus reassessments. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Mr. Page?
I have a follow-up question. This might be best suited for either Paul or Chief King. In regards to our staff levels for our marshals, what is our active marshal count and then also our reserves? I'm assuming reserves are purely volunteer. So what is our active marshal count as of today? I know we just onboarded a few.
8 full-time marshals.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, we will move on then to the public hearing, and I'll open that up and ask if someone would like to come forward and make a comment. Mr. Schultz is always eager.
Ready to go. Come wait on.
Before you start your time, how was lunch today?
I did
Xavier?
not eat. I am
What?
not going to eat that food from the school. Thank you. I
But
appreciate
did you
it.
have a good time with Xavier, at least?
Yes, he was very happy to see both of us, and he told us when we got home.
Good deal, good
So,
deal.
Andrew Schultz, 5350 Windweb Trace, Sugar Hill, Georgia. I would like to ask respectfully that you roll back the millage rate. People are struggling. I've said this every year, and it seems to fall upon deaf ears. I appreciate the little bit it got rolled back last year. I'd like to see it rolled back again this year. If we're worried about paying for cost of living raises, I'm not getting a cost of living raise, and I know very few people that are getting a cost of living raise. Maybe we should have thought about that before we signed up for a gas appliance rebate program. There's a lot of things that we want and need. What do we want and what do we really need? Do we need a bridge over 20? Do we need a park down at the river? What do we really need? How many marshals do we need? Do we need to make a precinct for the marshals? I mean, it can get out of hand, and it already has gotten out of hand. So I respectfully ask that you roll the millage rate back and start trimming some fat. There's no reason we can't do that. We're all adults here, and we all know what's heading our way. And if things don't change real quick, we're all going to be in a world of hurt. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. January.
Doggone it, Mr. Schultz, he stole most of my thunder, but
He always does.
essentially, I want to repeat, really ditto what he said. You know, people are taking it on the chin already from Gwinnett County. Again, another 6.5% increase in property taxes there. As Mr. Pergel mentioned, over the last few years, there's been some 60-some% increase in tax revenues in the city of Sugar Hill. Over that time frame, even if you take some of the really ridiculous projections for inflation rates, you know, you're still looking at a windfall of you know, maybe 40% anyway over that same time frame, and probably much more than that, probably more than 50% increases. So, you know, the residents are struggling. Again, on a fixed income, you know, I'm not getting an increase, certainly nothing even in the 6% range. You know, one of the things too, I've been doing some research with Gwinnett County, and I've noticed it looks like in about 2022, a lot of the commercial property requested and received tax appeals, which in effect locked in their property tax for the next few years. That means there is not going to be any increase in property tax revenues, you know, year over year from commercial properties. And since Sugar Hill follows Gwinnett County, there are, at least I know of, 2 commercial properties, apartment complexes in Sugar Hill that are in that boat. So there's not going to be any increase in property tax from those commercial properties, and probably others as well. So, you know, bottom line is, as Mr. Schultz said, we need to look at what we need and what might be nice. And we need to cut the fat. We need to stay with what we really need. Obviously, I want to see the hardworking employees at Sugar Hill get cost of living increases so that they can at least stay up with inflation. But if it's not necessary, then we don't need to do it now. Let's put it off. Let's give the folks in Sugar Hill a tax break. Let's look at setting the millage rate so that there is no tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. January. Anybody else? All right, we will close this public hearing. Again, we have another public hearing coming up next Monday at 6 p.m. Right here in the City Council chambers. And so I appreciate everybody's comments today. We will now move on to the last item, number 7, Mr. Basesh.
I know it's what everyone's been waiting for, but the last item on the agenda is a request to approve a resolution for the City of Sugar Hill to participate with Gwinnett County in their hazard mitigation planning efforts. And the document that has been prepared and updated by Gwinnett County does include a number of Sugar Hill-related actions. We have provided some estimates in the document, but they're not commitments to fund those necessarily in the amount of $145,000. The the hazard mitigation planning effort does allow Sugar Hill and other communities that participate access to hazard mitigation grant funds, and I think Mr. Perkle mentioned at the work session that the grant program did fund the storm sirens during the initial installation. I think the number was $136,000 that was made available through FEMA and GEMA grants for that program. We also did secure additional funding for updates to that system as well, and I think that was something like $50,000. We do have one large item on the list, which is related to Gary Perkle Park, and it's a way to tie in our storm siren system with an early warning system related to that park being below the dam breach area for Saddle Dike 3 of Lake Lanier. We have updated our portion of the plan to update our population and other information, but really the item is related to approving the resolution to participate in the plan with Gwinnett County.
Thank you, Mr. Basesh. Any questions? All right, is there a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Gwinnett County Hazard Mitigation Plan Resolution indicating the city's partnership with county emergency management and hazard mitigation efforts.
I have a motion. I was just thinking of how tired he sounds. I have a motion from Mr. Hicks. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second from Mr. Anderson. Is there any discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. All right, I have been informed by city staff that they have no need for executive session, and it would be really nice to go home and go to bed. But if there's not a need for executive session, is there a motion to adjourn our September city council meeting?
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
Motion to adjourn from Mr. Anderson. Is there a second? I will second. Second from Mr. Page. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, we are adjourned.